the Republican who wants to be Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, said this is what voters should be thinking about 12 days out.
If you care about the economy, if you care about crime, your streets, if you care about having a future that's built on an economy that's strong and a nation that is safe, don't cast your ballot based upon party. Because even Democrat consultants, even those Democrats on CNN were embarrassed of who their nominee was and the capability of carrying out the job. This is a big job in the Senate. It's a big job in the House. It's a huge job in the White House.
And okay, that actually is what I'd really like you to focus on for just a minute. The Republican leader was referring to Pennsylvania Democratic Senate candidate John Fetterman, who suffered a stroke, a medical crisis, as an embarrassment. Classy. Even though Fetterman addressed his health challenges head on at Tuesday's debate against Mehmet Oz.
Let's also talk about the elephant in the room. I had a stroke. He's never let me forget that. And I might miss some words during this debate. Mush two words together, but it knocked me down, but I'm going to keep coming back up.
The reality is John Fetterman faced a health issue that affects millions of Americans. And real talk, it took a lot of guts for him to take that stage just 5 months into his recovery, a time when most people who suffer strokes are still facing at least some effects. Even more so, given that he was facing off against an opponent who has spent most of his career talking on TV, which, by the way, is not exactly the main job of a United States senator. In fact, in many ways, Fetterman is a model for Americans who've experienced similar health challenges. But to Republicans, it's disqualifying. And they've been aided by a media narrative latching on to Fetterman's health and how it may have affected his performance in Tuesday's debate. Okay, but if that's an acceptable narrative, why isn't the healthiness of another candidate in one of the most consequential Senate races being subjected to the same scrutiny? Georgia Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker, who, as he's battled allegations about his personal life, has repeatedly pointed to his own struggles with mental health. In fact, Walker's been open about his history with dissociative personality disorder. In a 2008 book, he acknowledged his history with violent urges and writes that he played Russian roulette and recounts sitting at his kitchen table in 1991, pointing a loaded gun with a single bullet at his head. Now, as he's running for Senate, Walker says he's healed and has completely overcome his past struggles. Yeah, but some experts told the New York Times healing isn't as simple as Walker suggests, adding, John Fetterman, the Democratic candidate for Senate, is facing questions from Republicans about whether he's fit to serve after a stroke. Even Republican strategists say Mr. Walker should answer similar questions. The fact is, look, millions of Americans also live with mental health challenges. It's not about perpetrating a stigma. It's that Herschel Walker's challenges are not being treated as disqualifying by Republicans. If anything, they're seen as an asset. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich even pointed to the fact that Walker had sustained concussions as a college and pro football player as a sign of what he can bring to the Senate. Of course, none of Walker's issues, health or otherwise, really matter to Republicans. To them, he's just convenient. They know they can get him to do what they want him to do. And last night, Senator Lindsey Graham told us the real reason Republicans are telling you Herschel Walker's issues should not matter.
What is it about this guy? He changes the entire narrative of the left. We're a party of racists, Sean. Me and you're a racist. The Republican Party's racist. Well, what happens when the Republican Party elects and nominates Herschel Walker, an African-American black Heisman Trophy winner, right? Olympian. It destroys the whole narrative. They're scared to death of Herschel Walker because if Herschel Walker becomes a Republican, maybe every other young child in America of color might want to be a Republican.
Hi, I am joined now by Michael Steele, former Republican National Committee Chairman and host of the Michael Steele Podcast, and Juanita Tolliver, MSNBC political analyst, Democratic strategist, and co-host of the What a Day podcast on Crooked Media. Thank you very much both for being here. Michael, you know, you're at the disadvantage. You're not here with us, even though I know you could be, brother. We live in the same state, so I'm a little bit annoyed that you're not sitting here with me, but that's okay.
It's true.
But okay, so Michael, I do have to go to you because you were head of the RNC for a time. For me, it's the pointing at the silent man next to him as if he was an object.
Yes.
It's Lindsey Graham's completely, but, you know, sort of anodyne comments about, you see him? You see the black, he's black, right? You see how black he is? That proves that we're not racist. There's a black man standing there. You see a black, look at him. You see how black he is? It's the disrespect they have for black people and their belief that black people are essentially a prop, that when you place one in front of America, they will associate Republicans with anti-racism just because there's that black. Look at him. He plays football, right? He's athletic. Ain't that black? He got a lot of kids he didn't claim. Ain't that black? He's everything black is supposed to be, and he gonna do what we say. I found it incredibly offensive. But you're the black man on this panel. What did you make of it?
I watched that. No, I watched that with the same gut-wrenching feeling, because Herschel Walker shouldn't need a white man to come to his defense. He should be able to stand on his own 2 feet and make his case, but he can't, and that's the problem. And they know he can't because he hasn't. And so they trollop out Lindsey, who's going to do his form of, shucking and jiving for Herschel. And that's exactly what we watched. And it was heartbreaking and very disturbing to watch, because the reality of it is Lindsey knows damn well that if you change Herschel's skin color, he is no more the nominee for the Republican Party in Georgia than I am. And I don't live in Georgia, right? So the point is, why are you doing this? You know this man is fit. And I really much appreciated the way you opened the program to talk about how these two individuals are being treated who have health-related concerns, right? And the fact is the Republicans want to drop all over Fetterman for having a stroke, but they don't want to deal with the obvious mental health concerns that Walker himself said he had. I mean, and to the point is, you don't just walk away from that. There's a lot more involved here. CTE is real. And it has effects while you're alive, obviously not diagnosed until you are no longer here. But the reality of it is, these are good and important health issues to discuss in both states. But Republicans don't want to do that. So they just want to do they're coming after him because he's a black Republican. No, he's not qualified for the job, Lindsey. Now, I'm sure if there was someone else that you had nominated, the conversation would be very different, but that's where we are.
Right, and the difference is, Juanita, having had a stroke does not prevent you from being a senator. I mean, John F. Kennedy was sickly most of his adult life. He managed to be a United States senator and president of the United States. No one knew what his health challenges were. FDR, as the great Lawrence O'Donnell pointed out last night. Winston Churchill, sickly throughout his entire prime ministership in Great Britain. No one even knew, because the quality of your mind doesn't change with a stroke. Right. What Herschel Walker has admitted to was that he has dissociative disorder, that he's played Russian roulette. We know that he put a gun to the head of his former wife. He had violent tendencies. To me, this is something, if the media is going to go in on Fetterman for having had a recoverable illness that he's recovering from, I don't understand why it's not fair game to talk about Herschel Walker, because he clearly has deficits. And I feel like he's almost in the same category of the way the right uses Kanye. They know that he has some issues. He said himself, when he's not on his medication, he's not all there. And they are happy to trot him out and really exploit him and exploit his deficiencies that he's mentioned. Right. And they're willing to push him out there in front and put him on Tucker and parade him around because they just need a black guy to be able to say, look at this black guy.
And it makes them feel good. Yes. It makes them feel good. And what I got from that Lindsey Graham experience that we all had to watch as Herschel Walker sat there with a smirk on his face, silently, happy to be the prop, as Lindsey Graham said, here is an acceptable black man. Because that was the message from that clip. Amen. To white voters in Georgia, he is acceptable even with the violent history, even with the abuse towards his partner and his family, which his son has called out repeatedly on social media. This is still someone who is better than a reverend currently serving in the Senate in Warnock. And what I do appreciate, though, is that Senator Warnock did signal to this in their last debate. He called out the fact that Herschel Walker threatened a shootout with police as a sign about his previous violent tendencies. And whether or not that is related to his brain injuries or traumatic issues, that is still something that makes him unfit to serve. Yeah. And that should be the frame here that we should be coming back to. And when you talk about the comparison with Herschel Walker's treatment compared to Fetterman's treatment, I look at Fetterman and I see, okay, you're a public servant who's been serving the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for 10 plus years.
That's right.
In Walker, you got a washed-up athlete who's never served, who keeps paying for women's abortions, allegedly, and wants to ban all abortions for everybody else. There's no comparison here. They are not in the same league at all.
At all. And